12 important young Sheldon moments that are completely changed by the Big Bang Theory. Hello everyone, my name is Alana. Welcome to my channel. Before starting the video, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button. And give this video a like. Up the Big Bang Theory necessarily changed moments and character arcs that young Sheldon established. Different phases of Sheldon's life being recounted in Young Sheldon and the Big Bang Theory inevitably created plot holes that made retcons necessary in the prequel series, especially considering how the perspective of one sitcom sometimes diverged from that of the other. Indeed, Young Sheldon focusing on Sheldon's early years, recounted from an older Sheldon's perspective, in light of a memoir, inherently makes the story's point of view Sheldon's, contrasting with the Big Bang Theories, which was external, thus more objective, despite TBT's focus on Sheldon. Sheldon's point of view gave harsher depictions of his past in both Young Sheldon and the Big Bang Theory, even if the prequel's timing well after the end of the parent series made it possible for some of Young Sheldon's details to solve the Big Bang Theory's plot holes. However, existing in two different timings of Sheldon's life made changes of key characters as Young Sheldon established them also unavoidable, making sure that the Big Bang Theory's events would also forever change some Young Sheldon moments, even with the parent series coming years before its prequel. Despite the rocky start of their relationship guaranteed by Georgie's lies about his age, Georgie eventually owned up to his behavior in Young Sheldon, winning Mandy back, which properly kick-started their romance. With their marriage being explored in Georgie and Mandy's first marriage, it's undeniable how their sweet connection in Young Sheldon built its foundation, painting a picture of a loving couple, albeit one whose relationship began with the two facing difficulties because of the pregnancy and Georgie's lies. However, that's not how the Big Bang Theory depicted Georgie and Mandy. While Sheldon mentioned how Georgie's first wife remembered him and congratulated him after he and Amy won the Nobel Prize, Sheldon still saw Georgie's various marriages as a failure and depicted them as such the rare times he discussed his older brother in TBD. With Mandy's name not even appearing in the Big Bang Theory, the parent series essentially refused to acknowledge the good of Georgie and Mandy's relationship, rewriting their Young Sheldon heartwarming story. Sheldon's Grant database story in Young Sheldon Season 6 easily established itself as Sheldon's biggest failure in the prequel series, both for the obstacles Sheldon and Dr. Sturgis faced with creating it due to fights with East Texas Tech, and its resounding failure when nobody signed up for it. The database not only failed, but Sheldon was left alone by his family as he processed his first failure, as they all focused on Cease's birth, and they had never really cared about the database that much to begin with, despite Sheldon's interest in it. Sheldon's abandonment of string theory in the Big Bang Theory, Season 7, and his and Amy's last impediment when they found a Russian paper deeming superasymmetry not worth pursuing. Yet the Big Bang Theory never even mentioned Sheldon's Grant database failure. In addition, it showed major roadblocks Sheldon encountered, including his struggle to grasp how electrons move through graphene, Sheldon's abandonment of string theory in the Big Bang Theory, Season 7, and his and Amy's last impediment when they found a Russian paper deeming superasymmetry not worth pursuing. These obstacles were all considered by the Big Bang Theory as Sheldon's first failures every time, effectively undermining what his Grant database failure meant for Sheldon in Young Sheldon. Even before Missy's rebellion in Young Sheldon Season 6, Missy's wishes were often taken for granted in the prequel show, resulting in Missy feeling ignored. Young Sheldon Season 6's finale eventually included George Sr. and Missy finally talking about Missy's rebellion, leading to a heart-to-heart that prompted Missy's promise not to entertain such behaviors again. Still, the Big Bang Theory not only revealed how Missy's dumb teenage phase continued well after George Sr.'s death, but also eventually gave adult Missy's story a sad ending, as the Coopers' trip to Pasadena for Amy and Sheldon's wedding highlighted her unhappiness and Mary's inclination to dismiss her. Indeed, despite young Sheldon hinting at Missy changing her ways or trying hard to do so, The Big Bang Theory still gave her story an unhappy turn. Unlike Page's introduction to young Sheldon and her friendship with Sheldon showed how he could find people uncommonly intelligent like him, even before he found the gang in The Big Bang Theory. Despite her story developing tragically in young Sheldon's later seasons, Paige and Sheldon's friendship was still an important step in his life. Paige's arc in young Sheldon was always supposed to act as a cautionary tale of what could have happened to Sheldon had he not found his people. However, The Big Bang Theory never mentioning her essentially deleted Paige from Sheldon's past, not sharing the good that came from their connection, hinting even more at Paige's tragic ending if Sheldon refused to mention her or discuss her. Meemaw had always been an important part of Sheldon's life, but young Sheldon and The Big Bang Theory portrayed her in very different ways. Indeed, Meemaw's behavior and approach in young Sheldon always appeared as freer, especially when compared to Mary, who tended to be stricter. Her arrest could have prompted the change into The Big Bang Theory's version of the character, but young Sheldon Season 7 didn't hint at that. While Sheldon always spoke of Meemaw with affection in The Big Bang Theory, the character who appeared in The Big Bang Theory Season 9 differed greatly from Meemaw in young Sheldon. From her opposition to Amy to her willingness to speak frankly with Amy only once Sheldon disappeared into his room, Meemaw proved much more uncompromising in The Big Bang Theory. It's unclear what brought forth the change, but the young Sheldon spin-off George and Mandy's first marriage could potentially continue to shine a light on Meemaw's change. Ever since their first meeting, Sheldon and Dr. Sturgis hit it off, with the latter effectively becoming Sheldon's mentor in young Sheldon. Paige's introduction brought some conflict between the two because of Sheldon's jealousy, and Sheldon's fight with Dr. Sturgis over the help he gave his paper also stirred up some trouble. But Dr. Sturgis nevertheless was a constant in Sheldon's life, even taking into consideration young Sheldon Season 7's Dr. Sturgis problem. Not only did Sheldon ever mention Dr. Sturgis in The Big Bang Theory, but who Sheldon viewed as his mentor was Arthur Jeffries aka Professor Proton. While Professor Proton appeared in young Sheldon too, Sheldon had a much closer mentor in Dr. Sturgis in the prequel series, as the professor essentially introduced Sheldon to theoretical physics. With Sheldon not even mentioning him in his thanks during The Big Bang Theory's series finale, Sheldon effectively erases Dr. Sturgis' contribution to kickstarting his passion, as shown in young Sheldon from The Big Bang Theory's story. Young Sheldon never shied away from showing how much George Sr. struggled to connect with Sheldon, and this was especially true in the prequel series' first seasons. Young Sheldon nevertheless portrayed George Cooper Sr. as a family man who might get it wrong sometimes, but always tried, thus making him a positive figure in all of the Coopers' lives, with Sheldon not being an exception. Sheldon in The Big Bang Theory instead painted an entirely different picture of George Sr. Indeed, Sheldon's stories about George Sr. in The Big Bang Theory remembered him either as sharing profoundly offensive comments or as a good-for-nothing. George Sr.'s depiction in The Big Bang Theory entirely contradicts George as viewers got to know him in young Sheldon, making the parent series taint George's reputation that he built in young Sheldon, where his heart was always in the right place. Throughout young Sheldon, Tam appeared as one of Sheldon's first friends, essentially negating Sheldon's The Big Bang Theory stories about being an aloof kid. While Tam and Sheldon grew apart through the seasons, Sheldon still considered Tam an important part of his life, as proved by his wish to have lunch with him on his goodbye tour of his life in Medford in young Sheldon Season 7, Episode 12. However, The Big Bang Theory Season 12 oddly introduced Tam as one of Sheldon's enemies, despite young Sheldon Season 7 showing Tam more upset at Sheldon's disregard of his stories than the other way around. The Big Bang Theory Season 12 Episode 4 eventually got Sheldon and Tam to reconcile, but it still never explained why Tam and Sheldon's perspectives of their last meeting changed so much between young Sheldon and the Big Bang Theory. Mary's faith in young Sheldon always proved a confusing TBT plot hole, considering how different the characters were in the two TV shows. Indeed, Mary's faith was always an important part of young Sheldon, but it also wavered. Mary struggled with her faith after a neighbor's daughter died in a car accident, and she did so even after Pastor Jeff ostracized her from his church. The Big Bang Theory was steadfast. Not only did Mary and Sheldon often bicker about their difference in beliefs, with the first only accepting religion and the second espousing science, but she was also described as unrelenting in her faith. Mary never had any doubts about her faith in the Big Bang Theory, only coming close to it when she started dating a fellow parishioner. But even then, she expressed unease because of the discrepancy between her actions and beliefs, not a lack of faith as she did sometimes in young Sheldon. Sheldon never had trouble defining himself as an atheist in young Sheldon, giving Pastor Jeff a headache whenever he challenged his sermons, despite coming from a devout family. While his firm belief in science never wavered, young Sheldon Season 7 also proved Sheldon willing to adapt to beliefs he didn't share, like his mother's faith, only for someone else's peace of mind. Indeed, despite being an atheist, Sheldon chose to go through with his baptism to help Mary cope with George's death, proving an adaptability rarely seen in the Big Bang Theory's Sheldon. While Sheldon in the Big Bang Theory Season 12 greatly differed from the one in Season 1, he still tended to refuse to adapt. Up to a point he managed to, but Sheldon was nevertheless steadfast in his atheism, even as he accepted to compromise on some things for the benefit of his chosen family's members. This massive change never posed a problem in the Big Bang Theory, as it was only established by young Sheldon, but it still was a major one based on how the parent series presented Sheldon. Young Sheldon Season 7 finally proved that, despite George Sr. and Brenda's connection, nothing ever happened between them. Indeed, what Sheldon always described as one of the most upsetting things he witnessed in the Big Bang Theory wasn't really George cheating on Mary in young Sheldon Season 7. Still, not having confronted George or Mary about it left Sheldon to continue to believe George had cheated on Mary for many years. As a result of what Sheldon thought he had seen in young Sheldon Season 7, Sheldon always viewed his father as a cheater in the Big Bang Theory. This greatly influenced Sheldon's memory of George, resulting in Sheldon's many negative comments about his father in the Big Bang Theory, even as Sheldon realized that George was a good father in young Sheldon's series final. Young Sheldon often showed how Sheldon connected very rarely with Georgie, proving the least strong relationship among those in his family for Sheldon. Still, despite Georgie loathing Sheldon for being in the same class as him in high school, he still took care of Sheldon in his own way, especially as he and Mandy were expecting Missy. Sheldon's tales of his relationship with Georgie in the Big Bang Theory entirely negate what could be seen in young Sheldon. Indeed, Sheldon often described Georgie as his bully, to the point of not wanting to invite him to his wedding. Sheldon's stories in the Big Bang Theory thus changed Georgie and